it right now. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I'm a winner, yep, hallelujah. Praise goes up and the blessings come down. My swag straight from God's house. Help me please, deliver you. You best beware that Satan ain't no joke. He's smart, he's real, he's slick, he's like, he's lucky. Got you sitting at home with a broken heart, feeling like you're losing and he's tearing you apart. The devil is a liar. God already won.
You're listening to MarceyLynn once again on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Hey, thank you, Harry. Technically it's Wednesday, but happy Thursday, everyone. I'm very excited today, and thank you again for knowing that I'm here for you all. Today, I'm very excited to introduce somebody I'm very, very proud of. I know a lot of us know him, but today we're going to get a chance to know some things that people want to know about him as well. And he is one of my watch from afar inspiration, encouragement people in the art world, the medical world, and me as an apologist and a philosopher, seeing a Black man do the things that he does is amazing. So for those of you that don't know me, or know him, it's Mr. Sharmont Little. Influence, literally, that he lives his name. Hi, how are you today?
Hey, what's going on? I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's just really, really good to just sit down with you. You know, I've never had a chance to do that because we always busy people. So it's very good to get a chance to sit down and talk to you, even though we're not in the same space. We're both on the couch, though. We're both chilling on the couch in the office. So tell everyone where you come from, where you've been, and we'll get into where you're going after that.
I'm a young Black boy from New Haven. Came up in our neighborhoods in New Haven. Was born in Franklin Street Projects. Lived in the Ville, in a number of places. But I'm a New Haven boy. We moved out for a little while, and I lived up in the Windsor, Hartford area for a few years. But we came back home, and yeah, in my adult life, I have been in New Haven like my whole life. This is home where I was born.
You are New Haven. Yeah, you are New Haven. We believe that, and I know that. I've seen the things that you do here. So how was that? I mean, I know that, what did they call that? The G or something? It was just like Ashman Street. It was just like this village. So when you left, did you still have that same village in Hartford?
So, well, when we left is when my mom actually married my dad. So most people know who my dad was. He's not my biological. My dad, he used to, back in the day, if you're around my age or so if you're between 35 and 45, there was a dark-skinned manager that was at Popeyes on Whaley Avenue, and he used to talk a lot of junk, but he used to help out a lot of people, real community dude. That was my dad. So when my mom married him, they both moved us out and wanted to put us in different schools and stuff. So we lived in Windsor and we lived in Canton for a little while, and then we ended up coming back home. And yeah, so that's what happened. But
so just wanted to get into a little bit of that. Some things people might not know. So sometimes I like to go into someone's history or their childhood and let people know why there's such a love for New Haven, and that is a great way of getting started, especially considering this is the community radio for New Haven, along with the fact that you are back in New Haven and you are back big time. And I'm so proud of that. I am so proud of that. Like, proud of that. So let's get into some of these questions. So what I did is I sent you the interview letter and you proposed it to everyone on your page, which I thank you for, because the questions are not coming from me, because I might ask the wrong questions. So I'm going to make sure that I tag each and every individual on this recording and let them know their questions were answered on my show. So the most, let's see, oh my goodness, this was on May 16th, and we're
Hmm.
on June 5th. So these questions are still percolating because we left them right there.
Right.
So first we have Michelle B, and her question is, have you ever had a time where you were ready to quit doing poetry?
Yeah. So when you go really hard trying to be a professional poet, and sometimes you just don't seem to have that breakthrough, and then life hits. So you have a family, you have you have obligations, and so what you end up doing is you saying, "Listen, I got to go to school. I got to get my career straight. I have to find a way to actually feed my family, my children, because this poetry thing right now ain't kicking up." So I went through that process as well. And a guy who I love to death and is like a mentor of mine, and his name is Ngoma Hill. He's from New York.
Yes,
He
I
said
love
to me,
England.
yes, he said to me, he said, "Listen," he said, "poetry is always going to be here. It was here before you. It's here while you're here, and it's going to be here when you're gone. Go take care of what you got to take care of for your family, and then poetry be right here waiting for you when you get done." And so that's what I did. Um, and when I was able to come back after going to nursing school and doing all that stuff, after I was able to come back, being able to have a career allowed that I didn't have to worry about finances for my family, allowed me to fully focus on my quote unquote at that time hobby and honing my skills and practice what I want to make it a career, to where now
Mhm.
it's a side by side game, because now my poetry can make me just as much as more money as my uh career as a nurse,
Mhm.
from various angles.
I'm so proud of that. I saw you when you went to school. I saw the hard work and your schedule now for you to be able to have those weeks where you know you can have your same venue in Bridgeport to get there. I could imagine because the time that you became a nurse was a time when they had such a shortage, and I'm very proud of that for you, and I'm very proud of you. But I think I told you that a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So in Michelle had a two-part question, but we're going to do her second question, which was who influenced you? Who influenced you to influence others beyond poetry? So, it's just what field of study you likely be in. And that's so funny because you just explained a lot of those questions. So I'm just going to put the part that you didn't answer, which is who influenced you to influence others.
Um, there are a number of people. One was my grandmother, Essie Little Laurie. She was my heart. My grandmother was one of those grandmothers. We grew up first in on Canal Street, uh, where she lived there, and then she moved into the high risers that were on Division Street, and for a number of years until they had to move and they tore those down. But my grandmother was a community woman. She was one of the women that everybody in the neighborhood wanted to come to her house to eat, and she would feed anybody. She would talk to anybody. She would chastise anybody kid.
Mm-hmm.
She helped a number of people with their addiction when they were going through addiction, and their children need to be taken care of. That's the kind of grandmother I had. Um, and then you have my mother, who was the same way. Like I was raised to where you always help where you can. My dad showed me that directly in the community dealing with Popeyes, because he fed a lot of people out of Popeyes that didn't have any money
Mm-hmm.
on a regular basis. So
Yes.
the idea of community and things of that nature came from my family. Uh, so yeah, so I couldn't have had any greater representation or example to follow besides those three there.
And I never get the name right. A boy say Joseph Cole. Is that right? Boy say? Did I say that right?
Cool.
Joseph Cole. A boy say Joseph Cole. I'm not sure. I apologize if
Okay.
I'm not saying the name right. But you just answered that question. How important is the role of art? You know that art plays in the community. Um, with your dad. being, at Popeyes and being creative enough to be able to take everybody that had other than feeding problems
Right,
and
right.
help them, you know. So
Poetry,
that's
to go further into that question, poetry and community, it goes way deeper than just the feeding thing. So, first of all, there's nothing in the world that has happened that hasn't been captured by art,
mm-hmm.
of some sort, whether it's writings, whether it's poetry, whether it's uh, visual art, sculpting, whatever. Art has always been the teller of history. Beyond that, it's also a coping skill for people. Um, Most artists, it's what they do to get away from the world, and the only way they know how to get away from the world and to answer their own questions. So first and foremost, the impact that it has on community, I have been able and afforded the opportunity to help a lot of young people, and that's why my company Influence of Life was built, to be able to give them a voice, to be able to talk about the things that they necessarily couldn't talk about, but they were able to talk about them in poetry form, to where I had a lot of social workers and a lot of therapists coming to me and asking me, how did you get this child to talk about these things? And I've been talking to them about this for over a year, and I couldn't get them to open up to me. And poetry and art is the only way to get someone really free enough to be able to express themselves and not feel an obligation to say what you want them to say. You give a child a pen and you give them a prompt about whatever, talk about something that happened that made you sad. You don't even have to use the keywords of traumatic or anything like that. Talk about a day that made you sad and watch the floodgates open on what happened. So that's the impact of art on community.
That's just amazing. And I've heard you tell that story before about the young man that just expressed himself. And I'm just so, people don't understand how important it is to just give the children the freedom right now to express themselves securely without feeling like they have to go hide and sneak and do things. So, Richard Dotson Jr. said, "What inspired you to begin writing and become a performing artist?" I didn't ask you about begin. When did you start writing? Because you started writing way before.
I started writing when I was a child. My first initial falling in love with words came from my third or fourth grade teacher. Her name was Miss Vernon. I was actually I was bused from Franklin Street Projects to a school called Nathan Hale, which sits right around uh, East Haven, New Haven border right there. And so I was bused there, and Miss Vernon was a white woman, um, very one of the jazzy white women that wear the sweaters with the white shirt with the collar up, really jazzy woman. And she was brave enough and cared enough to where she would actually drive her Mercedes into Franklin Street Projects and come and pick me up during the summer and take me to her house. At that time, it was okay because it wasn't a bunch of creeps out there. And take us to the beach, and me and a couple of my friends, we would sit out there, and she would work with us during the summer. Um, and then during the school year, when we were coming up, we had spelling words that we had to know that were on the left hand side of the board when you walked in on Monday morning that you had a test on Friday. Um, those kind of things got me going. And then my dad played the role, because when I was coming up, when my mom married my dad, I was about 12 or 13 years old. He no longer allowed, his rule was I couldn't go outside during the week. So during the week, my father made me read the dictionary. And so I had to read the dictionary. We had lessons on who we were, as being young black males and stuff like that. I was only really allowed to go outside on Friday evenings, Friday, Saturday, a little bit during Sundays. After that, it was back in schools, back in the house. So other than playing football was my only escape to really get outside during the week. But those things fostered me to start writing. So I say I really started writing poetry a bit when I was around middle school, because when I started writing poetry, it wasn't cool. You would get called all kind of names. You would get called gay. You would get called all kind of negative things if you were a male right? It was cool for females, but it wasn't cool for a male, especially in our community, to write poetry. You was a sucker, you was a punk, you was everything. So by daytime, I was hanging with my friends and stuff, and at night, I'm in the house reading books and writing poetry and stuff like that. So no one really knew.
That's amazing because you know what? The kids these days just don't like outside. They don't like outside. So
Facts.
it's a whole, they want to
Facts.
be inside in a dungeon of a room in the sunniest days. And, you know, I wish I could say they were reading books. I mean, this is what I'm in my mom's house, so I'm going to show you. This is what I grew up on, if you can see them. My mom.
Yeah. I think you just muted yourself. You just muted yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I did that. Yeah, but
Okay.
you see, she still has them.
Yeah, I
And
do
it's
too. I
amazing,
mean, if I would
you
show
know.
you if I would show you one of my bookcases downstairs, I still have encyclopedias in my house. When my kids were growing up, I wouldn't allow my kids to use their phones or anything or computers to look up words. Nah,
They
Daddy, I
have to
can.
look it up.
Yeah, Daddy, I can use Google. No, you can't use Google. You go open that dictionary and go look up that word. I was like, nah. So my
Mhm.
kids now, 24 and 20, they know how to research. They know what it is to cross reference. They know what this is without using a computer. Um, yeah, so
Mhm.
it's different.
That's important. It's important to go back to those, you know, just the basic wording because even the words have changed. You know, they changed the definitions according to who's giving you the information,
Very
and
true.
that's very important for people to understand that. And you know what? I really like this next question from Destiny, Fidalgo George. What's the hardest and easiest thing to write poetry? Because I'm telling you, I have some hard times, and
The
I'm always
hardest and the easiest thing.
the hardest and the easiest thing to write about.
The easiest
And
thing to write about is following trends of what everyone else is writing about, right? So everybody writes about the social injustice pieces when God forbid police officers or someone kill brothers. Those pieces are easier to write about. Unfortunately, because they happen so often, to also are the reasons why they're easier to write. The poems that are harder to write are the ones that you actually have to look at yourself as a mirror and you're writing down your truth.
Mhm.
Those pieces are harder because that's one thing people don't get. Even when they ask you to perform somewhere, they don't sometimes they don't understand the emotional toll that it took to write those pieces or what it took to edit and revise those pieces and sit with those pieces and realize that you wrote the first draft and it's only the surface and you didn't go deep enough into really explain to paint that picture correctly. So those pieces are tend to be the hardest ones to write because you actually have to be honest with yourself about
Mm.
what you're writing and relive some of that stuff that you may not want to. So those personal poems are sometimes the hardest to write. Social justice poems are relatively easy. Unfortunately, they're easy because again it happens so often, and we're so used to that storyline. You know, it's just now how can I creatively deliver the same message differently, but really talk about the same thing? So
Hmm. Yeah, I understand that. And you know that sometimes when you get into our personal ones, we have to actually go back to those encyclopedias to try to figure out, okay, what is the word I'm looking for? And it'll be
mhm.
right there. So that's good. Rikia has a question. I like this question as well. And I already know, but you know, I know pretty much who you are. What do you stand for? And I can't even say how will you change the world because you're already changing the world. So how will you continue to change the world by, you know, the uplifting that we do? Because I can already tell you that just coming back to New Haven is uplifting us.
I don't know how to answer that because to me, anyone who could tell you how they're going to change the world, um, you don't know which way the world is going to go from your impact, right? So you can say what you hope to do, what you hope to how the whole world changes. What I try to stand for is I try to stand for honesty. I try to stand for understanding. I try to stand for truth and freedom, and not just freedom in the most simple sense. I'm talking about freedom of your mind. I'm talking about freedom of choices, freedom of in the best ways, the most brilliant ways that you can think of them. Um, I stand for standing in the mirror and having accountability for what your actions are. If you have those actions, and you've done something or what have you, stand up for it. I did it. Okay, what's the punishment? That's one thing my dad always said, was like, if you're gonna do something, go ahead and do what you want to do. But understand there's a positive and there's a negative that comes along with it. If you do something you may not should be doing, you're gonna enjoy it while you're doing it, but understand there's a repercussion that comes along with it. So just stand up to it when it comes, type thing.
Yeah, yeah. That goes like right into the next question from Razul. What is the most difficult and emotional complex piece to perform in public, and why? And I know you got multiple, but um,
Right now, the most emotional piece that I have is the one about my dad and him passing away of cancer, and that storyline. It's written in the form of a timepiece.
mhm,
So there's a timeline of when events happen and how my life fell into place because of him,
mhm,
and it starts from the time I was 12 years old all the way up until his passing 8 years ago. Um, so that's probably the most that piece, and the piece that I really don't do too often uh is a piece called Uncle E, and it's about my uncle who was my best friend, but he was gay and he passed away of HIV.
mhm,
Um, this was um, this was before they recognized unions and marriages. He had a union, he had a celebration. It wasn't recognized, but he did have one. Um, And whenever I was about to get my behind whooped by my mother, he was the one who saved me. He was the one who set it up for his nephew to spend time with his girlfriend. He would tell my mother he was going somewhere. Yeah, I'm a baby. I'll watch him, let him come over to the house, and he'd be like, "Listen, I'm getting ready to leave. Whatever, you got the house to yourself till this time. So my house better be clean when I come back." You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, he was just my best friend. So that's probably the other hardest piece I have that's difficult to do is my Uncle Eric piece and my father's piece.
so that goes right into the question that Ernell had, of course, and I think you kind of answered it. Like, what do you have? Why do you have so much passion for poetry? Because of the release, I'm assuming, but I will let you answer as well.
I have so much love for poetry because without poetry, I probably wouldn't be here, or I would have found a different way. At one point I was going through a very hard time, and I'll say I tried to harm myself. Uh, it's a funny story in the beginning because um, I was gonna jump off of West Haven Pier. Uh, and the only thing that pulled me down off of those metal banisters at that time was a poem came to my head. And when poetry comes to my head and things stanzas come to my head, I have to stop what I'm doing. I have to write them down, or I have been in a position where I've called someone and I said, "Listen, I need you to write this down for me and text it back to me." Um, so it was that kind of thing for me. Uh, it made me get off, and I went back to the car and I started writing. So I'm passionate about poetry because without poetry, I probably won't be here. Poetry has been better to me than I have been to myself because it afforded
Mm,
me the opportunity to um, get all of the voices and all the different things that I have going on in my head and the questions and the emotions and all these other things that I have been to be able to get out. And then it allowed me to be in a space to where I can turn it into something that was viable to help my family, my mother, my brothers, my kids, to where I don't necessarily have to tell them no for anything unless I'm just telling them no because I'm like, nah, you don't need that. So uh, it's poetry is the reason I have a company, Influence of Life. Poetry is the reason I have a clothing line. Poetry is the reason why I travel the world doing poetry. Poetry is the reason why I am known worldwide. Poetry. I owe poetry everything. So that's the reason why I'm passionate about it, and I play no games with poetry. It's fun, but poetry is serious.
Listen, poetry saved your life, and I thank poetry. I thank poetry because you definitely have a love for yourself that shows now. This next question is one thing I know you've probably thought about before, but Jason Hall asks if you could perform anywhere in the world at a venue, where would it be and why?
I don't think it would be a venue. I don't think it would be a venue. My dream is to go to Africa. And the funny thing about it is, I don't know where in Africa I should go because we, as a people, all now I won't say everybody, but a lot of us, the majority of us, don't know to what country we belong to or what tribe we belong to or what have you. But my goal is to go back, is go to Africa and perform for ancestors, perform for elders, perform for the people. Like that's my goal. So yeah, to perform in Africa is probably, and there's not a venue, there's no specific venue or anything. It's just to perform in Africa and do kind of. I don't do what my man Ayaba does. My man Ayaba grounds himself almost every time he spits a poem. There's no matter what shoes he got on, he kicks his shoes off. He grounds himself before he spits his poem. I probably would. That would probably be my grounding moment, to where I would do the Ayaba Patti LaBelle thing, and I would kick my shoes off and just go in. I would go in, as the kids say these days. I will eat on that day. Yeah, so that's it for me.
That's beautiful. So I guess, well, I'm not going to answer any questions for you. Lateef Belcher asked if you could translate your poetry to any language in the world, what would it be and why? So I would assume
African dialect. Yeah, it would be an African dialect, and there's so many, so I can't specifically answer.
until you're ready to
One,
go.
yeah, I couldn't specifically answer one. There is a dialect that I'm interested in, and it's the one that deals with a lot of clicks, and I learned this from another one of my mentors and a good friend of mine, Mr. Frederick Douglass Knowles. And it's a lot of clicks. It's a lot of clicks. I would love to learn that and be able to understand it and translate one of my poems into that. That would just be, that would be incredible. Like I'm just gonna say that would be incredible.
Yeah, it's like a verbal Morse code. It would definitely be amazing. I definitely want to be there for that. It's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. So, what other names did you consider besides influence? And that's coming from Chris Bama, aka Bama.
Oh, Bama. Quick story.
You still have 20 minutes, so go for it.
Josh's son, also known as Jason Dorsey, he named me. When I first came out, I went to a spot when Sandra's had her spot on Whitney Avenue, and she was doing open mics on Whitney Avenue years ago with Jay's son, Breon Baines, and all those cats were down there. And I that was the first real big open mic I went to, and I went there and I was gonna say, led other lives in the street. People used to call me BI, which stood for bad influence. So I said, I'm gonna use this as an oxymoron. I'm gonna take and I'm gonna have all this positive poetry, and I'm gonna go in and my name's gonna be BI. So I get on stage and I spit this poem, and Jay's the host, and he goes, the end of it, yo, why you call yourself that? Like in front of everybody. It wasn't a secret thing. It's like he's on stage. Like I explained to him just this, and he was like, nah, that don't make no sense. He said, from now on, your name is Influence. And from that point on, over 20 years ago to today, that's what my stage name has been, and that's what I am known for. period.
Yep.
So that's the only
That's
other name.
amazing. It's amazing. So it's kind of a birth of a name, but that really fits what's coming. Some people have that, knowing what's coming. I really like this question that Nicole Garcia asked, Caruso Garcia. Goes, and this is it's a triple part question, but it really gets to nooks and crannies and gives you a chance to give some aspects of performance to people. Is that what are a few of the most important aspects of performance? That is, what strategies or practices do you have that are tips would you give to poets who are reading aloud, whether at open mic, a reading, or a slam? The people that hold their phone and read.
So there's a poet by the name of Jamal St. John. So Jamal St. John is a poet out of New York, New Jersey area, and phenomenal poet. I don't think I ever remember a time when Jamal did not have paper with him, and he's won I don't know how many slams, destroying people with paper in his hand. But also that question is layered because it depends on what you're doing. How you perform in an open mic, depending on what kind of open mic you're performing for, is completely different how you might perform into a slam. So when you talk about performance, if you're going to perform the same exact way all the time, and that's the beauty of spoken word. Spoken word, if you can take and you can put it with a Jay-Z track and perform it, or you could take it and put it with a Mozart track and perform it, and they're two different performances with the same poem. You have to decide first off who your audience is and how you're going to represent this poem in that time, because every poem that you do doesn't always need an aggressive standpoint to it. It can be delivered in a more in a softer way for a crowd that has that perspective. But the first thing I would say, the very first thing, is to know your poem. Even if you use paper or you use a cell phone, know your poem. You wrote it. So I try my best, not even if I have to read a poem that I've written that is new, which I've been doing a lot of those since I became poet laureate and being commissioned to write a lot of new pieces. You have to put the time in to read over your poem and know your poem. So even if you do need the paper, you are more than familiar with it, even if you don't have it completely memorized. So that's the first part. For a good performance, make sure you're very, very, very familiar with your poem so you can actually give a performance and deliver the key points within the poem, what we call the high points, or either the roller coaster or the climax of the poem. You're able to deliver it. In the low points, you're able to deliver it. Learn what influx is. Learn how to use your voice as a paintbrush. So your voice can indicate when this is a solemn moment compared to a joyful or aggressive moment. It's a whole bunch of nuances, but the basis is first know your poem, and then you can play with the performance and deliver it in different ways once you do that.
Great advice. Great advice. And I'm telling you, I've struggled quite a bit because I have this voice, this voice, that radio voice. Everybody says, "Oh, the voice is so wonderful," but then when I get to poetry, I get really emotional. So thank you, I appreciate that. And my boy Fly Ty had a question, and I like this one. You know how he goes. What does your unwavering work ethic derive, and what keeps you motivated?
So my dad said something to me when I was about 16, 17 years old, and it didn't hit me until I got older. He said, "Boy, you're a wonderful starter, but you don't finish nothing." And so the reason why I go hard and the reason why I try to finish everything, the reason it's unwavering, is I don't want to be known as the person that start things but don't finish them. I don't want to have people to a point and then leave them hanging. So that the work ethic part of it also came from my dad. My dad was a workaholic, so I knew what it was. Work 6-7 days a week for what you want. And I translate that into the same thing within poetry. If you want something, if you want to pay off for it, and as in anything in life, you got to put into the work. And that's one thing that sometimes gets in the way of some of these some of the younger artists that are coming in, because a lot of times they think when they write a poem, it's the dopest thing to ever hit the page, and um, understand that even the greatest of great poets had to put in work and had to edit, had to revise, and work hard for the art. And once you work hard for the artwork then works for you. So directly, it came. My work ethic probably came from my dad, and from what he told me as a young man, and then being the model that he was when it came to dedicating himself to something, including dedicating himself to me and my brother.
And making that move too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're listening to MarceyLynn once again on 103.5 New Haven Independence Community Radio, WNHH, your home for community radio. And today I'm talking to Sharmont, Influencidental, one of my good friends, and I guess I'm an auntie, one of those aunties. You know, y'all a little younger than me, so I'll give you that. And I'm taking some questions, and yes, I made him do all the work. I make all my guests do all the work because if I ask the questions, it's stuff that I pretty much know. So I want to learn something new too. So yes, I made all of his followers give me some questions, and I'm answering a lot of them. And any of the other ones, he said he will kindly go back and answer later. So y'all just had to
Yeah.
wait till this comes. Okay. So
Right.
you know what I love about Bloom with Breeze, okay? What is something that you hope to learn more about or master with yourself? It's a good thinking question, right?
How to deal with how to completely deal with my trauma. Um, I found myself being a better person, more compassionate person when I'm able to deal with things that have happened to me in my life and traumatic experiences in increments, and I see a little bit more growth each time. So yeah, I think digging myself out of some of the things that happened to me and letting, because contrary to popular opinion, people see me on stage and they say, wow, he's fearless. It's completely the opposite. It's completely the opposite. I am scared out of my mind. I'm nervous out of my mind. uh, I worry about what people say about me to an extent when it comes to my work. Erica Badu said I'm sensitive about my ish. um, I am to an extent. But I also realize that my poems are actually for me, and they're not, and other people just happen to like them. So I don't write poems for people to like. I write poems to help unearth me.
Hmm.
So yeah, but dealing with my trauma is that
Real.
question. Yeah.
So, if you could name the season of your life you're in, what would it be? Also from Bloom with
Hmm.
Blaze.
Um.
Breeze, breeze,
Right
breeze.
now, so you see, seasons come around and they continue to come around. So right now, I'm in the summer. I'm in the summer of my season right now. Things are bright. Things are sunny. Sometimes get a little hot. There's some cool points, you know. But yeah, I'm definitely in a summer season right now.
Great. You know, summer's good.
Yeah.
Summer's good, but I kind of like fall too because sometimes you need
Yeah.
to cool off
Right.
after all that after all that fire.
Right. Right.
So, what's one of your biggest aspirations toward your legacy?
To work towards. Say that again.
Toward, yeah. What's one of your biggest aspirations toward your legacy?
I don't have, like I said, I don't have something. I don't have a plan. I just know I want to continue doing the work that's going to help myself and other people be better,
Hmm.
whatever that work may be. Whether it's creating workshops for young people, whether it's talking to middle age to young people, whether it's being a financial help to some people, whether it's uh, giving carriers to young women who don't have the money to take their babies home from Yale, whether it's feeding people in the community, all these things I've done, and I've been able to do a lot of them under the radar. But I see the appreciation from the individuals that I touch. I mean, even from these 60 to 80 people I feed every Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like the there's a reason why I didn't want video of the people or even the area that I was going to, nothing like that, because I'm not, I have faith, I'm not religious, but the Bible tells you a point to where something along the lines of, if you look for praise from other people, then you received your blessings already. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
So I don't. I've never been one to do things for other people to see and cheer on. It's more so of, I believe I don't have any issues. I feel like I don't need nothing financially, only because I do it out of the kindness of my heart to help people get better. So that's the only part that, if I'm saying I'm gonna have a legacy, is to continue helping people in whatever whatever way the universe, our ancestors, decide to put me in and say that I can use you on this path, then that's where I
mm, mm. That's amazing. And there's a question up here, and I really, really want to know the answer. And I'm just thinking um, that I don't know if you saw Demont Cobb's is a question. If you had a dream lineup of poets, who would be on it? If you could slam with anyone, dead or alive, whom would you choose? What is the biggest conspiracy theory you believe? So the last part, I'm gonna leave because I think you're gonna crack. If you read the question, you know what the last part is, right?
yeah. Demont, funny dude, bro, Mr. Orange.
Yeah.
Um, uh, okay, let's take the part of the people that I would slam with.
Hmm.
First up, alive. If he decided to pick up a pen again and come back, it would be, I would love to do a group home with my brother Jamal Jimerson, also known as Conscience. Um,
Mm.
the world has actually, I mean, they've gained a philanthropist and a motivator, but they've lost one of the probably most dynamite poets that you've ever seen. Um, yeah, so he was the first poet superstar that I noticed, that when he walked into a room, what people say I do to a room, I watched it happen when he walked into a room. So he would be my first. Jamal Jimerson, also known as Conscience. Um, who else?
Wow.
Um, I don't really know if there's a bunch of poets. I mean, my friends, I mean, I would want to slam and write pieces with my friends. Jason Dorsey, I would love to write a piece with him because our styles are so different. Like,
Hmm.
Ja's like this abstract dude that bring metaphors about cereal and boxes, and you know, and I'm that
Yes.
I'm that straight talk, bar for bar, like, type poet. I would love to have our styles mixed together. Um, who else? Uh, I would like to see if I could match the pen of Langston Hughes. Um,
Mm.
uh, if I could put myself in his style of writing, um, and if I could do a piece with him, he would be one. Um, yeah, there's not a whole bunch. I have people I'm a fan of, but to say I would want to write with them, either I've been blessed to, if I wanted to write with them, I have, um or be in the same room and have the like minds with them, I have. or been asked to. I did. There's a lot of poets that I admire. My man that's on the slam team with me, he's a good friend of mine, Michael Chief Peterson. That's part of the slam team. He did a track on his album. If you haven't heard it, go get it. It's called Keep Going. And there's a track on there that's called More Broken Than Black. And he has a incredible lineup of poets across the nation. And all of us are, it's about 10 of us, and we're all on it. So it has myself, it has Obi West, Prentice Powell, Yao, Tarishi Midnight Schuler. I mean, it has a gang of poets, and we're all talking about what it is to be more broken than black as a black man. That track is phenomenal. So if you haven't, again, it's called Keep Going. It's on all streaming platforms, and by Michael Chief Peterson, and the track is More Broken Than Black.
Wow, definitely. Just listening to, I definitely gotta get that. I'm looking at the questions, but I'm going, definitely gotta get that. That sounds so powerful. I can imagine with all of you on it. That's just gotta be amazing. I wanted to take a minute for you to let everybody know what you got coming up.
So here in New Haven, I started an open mic. The next one is going to be July 12th. Doors open at 6 and it's over at 8:30, 9-ish type thing. But it's an open mic for the city of New Haven. It's called Elm City Flow. Actually, our next feature is going to be Jason Dorsey, Josh's son, is going to be our next feature. So you definitely want to do that. It's a bi-monthly open mic. Hopefully next year, when I sit down with the city again, we'll be able to get it as a monthly thing. But right now it's bi-monthly. So the next one is July 12th. Coming up more recent, we have June 22nd. June 22nd is a show that I do every year called Lyrical Haven. The tickets for Lyrical Haven is on Eventbrite, or you can go into either one of my bios on Instagram, influence_a_life, or Sharmont, SHARMONT, Influence Little on Facebook, and the links are there. What it is an R&B and poetry experience. Live band, a DJ, poets, and R&B singers doing live music and doing their poems with the band. It's like a great event. I'm also doing a wine tasting and free hors d'oeuvre hour for the guests that come. But it's always a great event. Last year was sold out, like 60 people in the building, and we had a great time dancing and vibing out. It was wonderful. Besides that, I also have the slam team. Myself and the Verbal Slap Slam team are leaving to go to Pompano, Florida on June 11th. We're flying out next week to go battle at a poetry event convention called Southern Fried. And it's a great honor. It's a great honor to be a part of that, because we are the furthest north that they've ever allowed in or invited. And it's all due to the work that other poets have put in on the Verbal Slap teams of early. You're talking about Midnight, you're talking about Abiose, you're talking about myself, you're talking about Ball Bidon, you're talking about all the work that was put in previous for them to want to and know who we are and want us back is because of that. So we'll be leaving for that on June 11th. And also in August, you want to write this down, August 10th, we're going to be at Lanan's in Hamden for my underground poetry slam, $2,000 poetry slam. I call a lot of the top poets that you see on Instagram and stuff like that and see on YouTube. They come and they converge here in Connecticut and they battle for $2,000. It's probably one of the biggest poetry slams outside of the Dr. Martin Luther King and Zanette Lewis Invitational that we have. So yeah, look out for those.
Yeah. So Lanan's is on State Street, right? So
Lanan's is on State Street.
Yeah, on State. And then Friday, this upcoming Friday. So tomorrow.
This upcoming Friday, we are going to be at, what is it, 34?
37
Yeah,
37 House Street.
37 House Street.
I'm in Chicago. That's why I snuck up to Bridgeport, because I knew I wasn't going. was like, I'm gonna go to Bridgeport because I'm not gonna be here. I'll have to go to Chicago. I'm a
That's
national
what's up.
delegate for the country, so I have to go do my duty in Chicago. With regrettably, across the street from the college we're staying at is the jazz festival. So I feel so bad about it. Nope.
Wow.
But I
But
still
yeah,
look forward.
so we're
Go
gonna be
ahead.
there on Friday. The slam team is gonna be there on Friday. We're gonna be doing some poems that they did not see on at Poets Realm. We got some more poems completed, so we're gonna come there. We're gonna show up and show out for New Haven for the People Center, 37 House Street. It's also a fundraiser for us to help us with our endeavor of Pompano, Florida. So you can come out. Please come out. Doors open at 7 o'clock, and yeah, we'll be there.
They'll be there, and I'm telling you, I won't be there, but I'm definitely gonna be there in spirit, and I'm gonna be like, ah. But I'm so glad that you're gonna listen, guys. When I say fundraiser, it's a fundraiser. So please help them out to go. I don't know. I might sneak up and show up in Florida on them. They don't know yet, but it wouldn't be a surprise. But we're gonna definitely be looking forward to everything that you've done and are doing. So before and after, you will see, or before you saw that all the flyers for the things that he's mentioned are here, except for, of course, there was the Lenons and the actual uh, slam itself in Florida. So those are the things that you won't see. But please reach out. Keep an eye on his page. Make sure you attend tomorrow at Free to Spit. You will not have a better time anywhere else. I can tell you, it will be relieving. It's going to be a packed house, I'm sure. So maybe standing room only. I'm down for that, even when I'm not there. And I cannot tell you how much I adore, encourage, love, and I can't even explain to you how proud I am of you. And you're beautiful, because behind every moment, listen, and my girl with her cooking self, she knows she can cook. So I hope you guys are bringing out some great food tomorrow. And any last words? Because I really, really want to get a little poetry in, but I know you're going to do all that tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm doing
If you
that
want.
tomorrow. Really, man. Um, I'm just a young man from an urban city, and the things that I've seen in my life so far, it's all because of poetry and believing in yourself. No matter what your goal is in life, please, please, please understand that you are great and you have greatness, and believe in yourself. I don't care if you have to tell yourself in the mirror every single day. It's important that you believe in yourself, and you are not your current circumstances if they're not good, but you are so much greater that people can't imagine what you can be. All you have to do is believe in yourself and focus and be ready for your opportunity when they knock.
Talk that talk. So I saved the last one of the questions for last. What do you think God said when He created you? There
What
you
did he say when
go.
he created me? What did God say when he created me?
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm doing the right thing.
I'm not even gonna tell you who that one came from. Hold on, somebody's calling my mom's phone. Influence, I love you. And everybody out there, remember, I love you, and there's nothing you could do about it. I'll see you when I get back from Chicago. Influence, keep up the good work. Like I said, don't be surprised if you're gonna see me everywhere anyway, because you're back
Yeah.
here in New Haven. Every once in a while I'll jump on the train and come see you unexpectedly when you're least expected. But
All right.
I love you. God
Yep.
bless you. Kiss your wife for me, hug the kids, all that. And have a wonderful time tomorrow. You guys
Thank
know
you.
I'm there in
Thank
spirit. All right. Peace and blessings, everyone.
you. Peace. Peace.
Yeah, praise goes up, blessings come down. I need a blessing right now.